What's up, everybody? Sup? Sup? It's Bunny. Alright. Bunny of Death. Let me see here. Text. Properties. Can we move it over? Wait, what? There. It's better. Yeah, that was stupid. Sun Prism. End stream. Done. Alright. So, we are celebrating 9 degrees Fahrenheit. Yes! I've got the temperature right here. 90 degrees Fahrenheit. For the first time in my office. It's May the 1st. So here's the situation. It is warm. Today is a holiday, pagan holiday, 1st of May. But dudes came yesterday. The dudes came yesterday to look about installing air conditioning or fixing the air conditioning in my apartment and setting something up here. And I don't know how much it's going to cost, but it looks like they can put some kind of small air conditioning unit in my office. So, we'll see. The only problem is, because it's hot, these dudes, the air conditioning dudes, have a lot of work. So, we can't get them to come out until the first week of June. They can't do it until first week of June. They're so booked. All I remember... What? Anyway, so I'm going to be baking. Here's the point. We're going to keep a record of the temperature. May 1st, we're at 90 degrees Fahrenheit. And we've got to survive until, probably like June 5th or something like that. So basically, a little more than a month. If it's 90 now, what will it be like in a month in my office? Because now it's like barely tolerable. Alright, guys. The good news is that we can get... Because last year I was at the other apartment, and I was in the air conditioning room, and it was cool. But you remember, if you watch my stream, summers are a bitch here. I was usually in Cape Cod or... so there haven't been that many like brutal summers. After COVID, we had a couple here, which were really nasty, right? We've had a couple bad summers. Yeah, basically 2020, 2021, 2022, and 2023. So we did it 4 years in a row in the sauna here. This will be my 5th sauna summer, but only until July, only until June. Alright, so anyway, that's where we're at. What's up, Sun Prism, Mr. Coffee? Good to see you. Mr. Coffee, we have a game submitted from you. How's my sound? I installed Microsoft Teams instead of Skype, and it's like, can't even find my microphone. It screwed up my microphone on my other computer, my old computer. I can't even identify why my microphone won't work thanks to Microsoft Teams. Alright, we got Acerbate. Mr. Slow, I'm assuming, has a game, although I'm not sure about Mr. Slow. We've got Nefudov, Mr. Coffee, Sun Prism, the mysterious power of the new, who I still don't know if they're a subscriber. I don't think I'll ever know if they're a subscriber. And then Saeed sent me a game. So that's 7. If we don't count Acerbate's other game. Saeeds versus I Cheat But Prove It. Oh shit, that's his opponent's name. Anyway, that's not our first game. We're starting with Acerbate. The Summer Wind. Ah, that's a good name. The Summer Wind. Just what we don't have here. 90 and counting. Alright. I like to stream at the hottest time of the day also. So, alright, Acerbate is white. It's knight f3. d5. We do have sound on this computer. WJ Loof. Wow. What? WJ Loof, you just subscribed to 69, and now you're 70. That was the fastest month ever. How do you do that? He subscribes another month, every day. Every 2 days he subscribes another month. You're up to 70 now. Alright. Did I just turn the volume down or turn it up? I can't tell. I have this volume thing. It's like freaky looking little device. But I can't tell which is up and which is down. So I just like turn it one way or the other. Is it like the hot water and cold water? I can't tell which is turning it up, turning it down. I don't mean my volume. I mean the machine, you know, the volume on the machine. You're good too, Mr. Coffee. 70 months. Alright, you can't go back to 69. But you can go back to 39. 39 years and 70 months. Ah, got you on the tube and it's fine. No, I don't mean my mic volume. I mean my desktop volume. Because I want to hear when someone makes a donation or whatever. Alright. Anyway, brain fog. Is chess good for brain fog? It doesn't seem to help. Any supplements or dietary recommendations for brain fog? I know WJ Liv started playing chess to improve mental acuity. It's not helping me though. Okay, knight f3, d5, b3. Got a Nimzovich variation. Now knight to c6 is a very common move supporting e5. And I think it has some justification. You must play bishop b2, that's the best. Other moves plausibly include e3, g3. So Acerbates plays d4. Okay, so d4 is not such a bad move. You're transposing to another opening, really, like a kind of Colli-Zukertort system. Preventing black from playing e5, obviously. Acerbate is expanding more into the d4 realm. I don't love the move, you know, because our hyper-modern move bishop b2 is probably more flexible. There's no reason to play d4 yet. I would say you're better off playing bishop b2. Still, it's not bad. And now, okay, bishop f5. We're gonna see that. Yabava, whatever, London. Yeah, that's what I expected. So now bishop e2, consistently focusing on control of e5, and now black plays f6. Okay, so this move is pretty extreme, but I think that there's some justification to that. I mean, he's clearly pushing for control of, and eventually, you know, trying to achieve e5. I think f6 is slightly weakening black's kingside, but in many cases, in this Borisov, Yabava London type thing, you're going to castle queenside because you haven't moved your c-pawn. So we can expect the opponent to maybe castle long. So that's g5 type of stuff. So I would say you should go for e3 now. And instead you played a3, which I understand, because this is apparently a threat. And, well, the question would be, like, if you were to play e3, as there's one game here, Lupu Dimitriescu, If black plays knight b4, how do we answer that? Do we play bishop d3, or do we go knight a3? Threatening c3, kicking the knight back off of b4. I would prefer to play knight a3 if I were you, black. But no, ultimately, Astrobate, I think a3 is a little bit slow, but I understand your caution here because, again, this is a playable move for black. I'm not sure it really works that well with f6 necessarily. Oftentimes you play knight b4, you're hoping to play like c5. Can he really do that? This is probably not that great. Take. It's playable. Anyways, alright, a3, and then black plays e5. So he turns it into a gambit. Like a Black Mardimer-esque gambit. What's up, sack, draw? The only way to refute upon a gambit is to accept the sacrifice. And Astrobate accepts that sacrifice. Having said that, you don't have to, but anything else is very passive for white here. The only other options, well, more or less just e3. So, okay, you take, he takes with the pawn, and now if you take with the bishop, you're giving up a very valuable piece. So, I think this is a no-brainer. Now we did get volume, that's good. Okay, sack draw, his tip 602. Yeah, anyone who has any tips on food, diet, or supplements that will improve or reduce like brain fog. I just felt a lot of brain fog today, and I'm thinking like, can I? Obviously, exercise is important. I don't exercise enough, but if there's some kind of secret dietary change one can make. Okay, knight takes e5. Now, I think this is good. Black Mardimer, it's not really a Black Mardimer because black didn't play in such a typical way, but it is, essentially. So if he takes, brings the bishop out to e5, he's going to have to play knight f6 anyway. Maybe what? Alex Jones? Thanks, man. Pandolfini used to swear by almonds. I ate some almonds today. God damn, it didn't even work. I had almonds in my cornflakes. It's not even working. I'm beyond almonds. Oh. It may just be the heat. You know, I don't know. Alright. Lack of exercise. Knight takes c5, knight f6, knight takes c6, b takes c. So where's black going to castle? On the king side, right? Okay, good game so far. Black has, I think, a reasonable amount of compensation. Knight d2. Bishop where? That's interesting. Now that's an interesting move. Creatine. That's like a supplement. Alright. So 92. Bishop b4. Astrobate, the guy played a perfectly good game and then just gave you a bishop for no reason. Ugh. Horrible. Alright. It's hard to explain this move. It's not a mouse slip. This is losing on purpose. That's called throwing the game. Bro, come on. It was a perfectly good position. I mean, either you play bishop c5 or you play bishop d6. And black has compensation. I bet black is equal, despite the fact that they're down a pawn. No, I'm wrong. I've been proved wrong. I don't love his structure. The doubled pawns. He didn't have to allow his pawns to be doubled. I want to go back there for a second to that moment where you took on e5. When you take on e5, why doesn't he take and then play knight f6? That way he keeps his pawns together in, united structure. Now how about compensation? Now he has like a half pawn or less. So I think the computer doesn't like him letting you double his pawns on c6. I personally don't think it's that bad, because it's not going to be that easy for white no matter what you do. If he plays a reasonable move now, let's say bishop d6, e3, castles, bishop e2, queen e7, castles. I mean, how does white prove their extra pawn, is like winning here? I mean, you have a backwardness along the e-file. It's not easy for you to create a passed pawn. Your extra pawn's on the king side. The only way you can win this game is essentially by like slowly trading pieces off one by one till we get to like a winning endgame, a pawn up. It's not going to be that simple. And I don't even think his doubled pawns are that much of a liability. And eventually you're going to break with c4. It's not easy to punish those double pawns. You can't even attack them, so this is retarded. I mean, bishop e4 just losing a piece. I'm very disappointed. At least he got his rook active. Now you have queen a1 though. This is going to be I think this is going to be one of those like aesthetic games by Acerbate. Rook takes b4, bishop a3. Yeah, I was thinking, queen a1 would leave your c2 pawn. Okay, here. And you trapped him, so he can't castle. Nice. And this is also here and here. To be fair to Acerbate, I know the opponent just lost a piece, but he played like a perfect game. It's not often that Acerbate plays a game where he has 0 inaccuracies. So Ginkgo Foundation. Yeah, I used to feed Ginkgo to my mom. I'll have to try the Ginkgo. Now you play it? Now you played it. How does that work? Oh, because you pick up bishop f5, see? Oh, the g7's hanging. Rook a1, okay. Take, and now take, hitting rook, threatening mate, and ultimately black is lost. Boom. Alright. Well, it was flawed. A flawed game by Acerbate. Alright, Mr. Slow. This is just our warm-up. Thanks for the subscription from WJ Loof. Mr. Slow, I'm going to check if he has any new games in his study. We did last time Porcupine. Spielman Porcupine was last game. We'll wait for Mr. Slow and see if he shows up. But today's a big holiday, Like, I don't know about not so much in America, but in Europe it's really big. Pagan holiday. It goes back to, prehistoric times where people were like, driving the demons away and shit. They still do that in Romania. They have like scary monsters to frighten the evil spirits away and shit. So I think the point is that Mr. Slow is probably not going to be here today, as it's a holiday in Europe, and most people probably aren't working. So maybe we don't have Mr. Slow today. Nefedov, I've got Mr. Coffee. Mr. Coffee's here. Check. Sun Prism here. Check. Let's save Nefedov because he always shows up later. Let's save Nefedov and do Mr. Coffee and Sun Prism. May Day. Yeah, the 1st of May. The Maypole. I dated a girl for a time whose name was Maypole. I didn't think like anybody like really had that name. It's pretty weird to be named Maypole. All right. Anyway, right. Don't ever tell them that you play chess if you want the relationship to last. And don't date people who play chess, obviously. You're going to end up like worse than you already are. Okay, Sun Prism, Mr. Coffee. What do you guys want to start with? Let's start with Mr. Coffee. So this is Mr. Coffee Black. Now, Mr. Coffee just played a tournament where every game Black won. That's like Andras Shadorian, Dream Tournament. So, Shaber Jacob, teenish. It's very important that we identify the age range of the opponents. Then we have a little read on them. We know we're playing a younger player. A younger player, maybe the rating is less accurate. If it's a senior, the rating's probably more accurate. So, I think that's why Mr. Coffee likes to let me know, here, the opponent is a teenager. Just because they're 1246 doesn't mean they're not getting a lot better very quickly. Just a little extra information. Important, but not critical. Okay, so d4, knight f6, c4, e6, knight f3, d5, knight c3, c5. And now white plays c5, d takes c. I'm very skeptical when I see this move. But I'd really like to see... I'd like to see the expression of my... I think you'd annotate the expression of my opponent's face when you play this move. A 1246 is a beginner. That was like lower than my first rating. But d takes c... It can't be that bad. It's like a Queen's Gambit accepted. I'm surprised to see someone play d takes c, because even beginners know, like, take toward the center. And it's not like the Queen's Gambit where you're taking a pawn and, it's like temporarily not defended. This pawn is clearly defended by the bishop at f8, so you're coming out with tempo. Having said that, it's probably not that terrible for white. With d takes c5, he's going to transpose. He's giving away his opening advantage. So it is a mistake, but how bad is it? Probably he transposes to a kind of like Steinitz Queen's Gambit accepted in reverse. So he's black, basically. After d takes c5, bishop takes c5, e3, he's black in a Queen's Gambit accepted. Now he does this, and now this is important here. You have, again, Queen's Gambit accepted, reversed, but white has an extra move, knight c3 in. So if there's no knight on c3, you have these funky moves like queen b3 and stuff sometimes people play. You could still play that move, queen b6 here. I'm just wanted to point this out. I don't think it does anything. It's like a Nimzo idea. Chom used to do it in one line of the classical Nimzo. You could do it in the classical Nimzo to prevent white from developing the bishop outside the pawn chain. So like he has to go e3. But then you're just vulnerable to knight a4. You're no longer protecting your pawn on d5. This move doesn't have any real point. You're also like... You can't do any tricks to him like castles, pawn takes, bishop takes, f2 check. Because his knight is protected by it. So the extra tempo makes a huge difference. If this was reverse colors, If you didn't, if he didn't have the extra tempo, he couldn't take on e6, for example. Now, having said that, I know this is a little extreme, but you could like theoretically play like a pawn sack. It's probably Uber driver level soundness. This looks like a bad sort of, well, I would say on takes you take on d1. What we get is a kind of bad Henning Shara gambit, essentially. All I'm saying is like that's conceivable, but maybe not great. So I think you played correctly. If you take with a knight now, there is a debate about which way to take with the knight or the pawn. Pawn takes is more aggressive. There are only 15 games and 13 out of, or 16 games. 13 out of 16 games players took with the pawn. So if you take with the pawn, you have a threat of d4. First of all. Secondly, you don't allow simplification. With an IQP, I don't think you should generally want to trade pieces. So general principles support taking with the pawn. Having said that, this probably isn't that bad. Alright. E takes D. Now white to move. He can play bishop g5. But what I'm thinking is you're threatening d4. Sac draw right up your alley. Now we're in the Tarrasch. This is a threat. So I see there's like 2 games where white play bishop g5, but the question would be like, if you go bishop g5, is this not a problem? You could sack your queen temporarily. Knight e4, knight takes e4, bishop takes d8, bishop b4 check, knight d2, bishop takes d2, queen takes d2, knight takes d2. And we win a piece. I had a really weird snake Benoni I could show you guys. This came up offbeat reference, but I had a funny thing happen in the snake Benoni this week. I played the snake Benoni and my opponent did bishop g5, which I had not known was even like a variation. Is that right? Is that right? And I went here? Yeah. So that's wrong. I'm not supposed to play bishop e5. This doesn't seem right. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I'm off the subject. Alright, e takes d5. So bishop g5, d4. Your opponent does play bishop g5. I mean, this is way more standard. And that's about it. Anything else looks suspicious. Like even g3 is probably too slow, and black's already like got more than equality. So basically white has to play bishop g5. You know what this is? Interestingly, I think it's like a c3 Sicilian in reverse. That's what we're looking at here. It's a c3 Sicilian in reverse. It's a lot of things, actually, but one of them is a c3 Sicilian in reverse. So in c3 in Sicilian, yeah, bishop g5, d4. Knight a4, bishop check, bishop d2, queen a5. I don't know. I don't like that for white. It looks like he should play e3, but he goes here. Now you played bishop e6. See? Your other option is to go full sac draw. You could go the full sac draw route and just not defend your pawn on d5. also advocated by Uber driver, the sort of castle, just I don't care about my pawn. But admittedly, it's a stopgap concept, and I think that, you know, a lot of times they're going to play e3. You still have to. If they try to win the pawn, you take with the queen, and then either way they try to take, you'd have compensation. Some compensation. Maybe not enough, but some here. Well, this is clearly better for black. Wow. So this appears to be completely sound. So he has to play e3, but you're still going to have to resolve the situation. You can't, like, leave your pawn hanging forever. The problem is when you have an IQP, you know, you don't want to do these kind of moves unless you have to. This is transposing to Vidit Carlsen and other Grandmaster games. But those games they definitely occurred by a different move order. You know, I don't know how early that bishop was on e6. This is weird. I'm not sure how those other games transposed. But yeah, the other options look better, Mr. Coffee. So this is a minor concession. And then white plays the insane e4. And then at this point you've got to be like, excuse me? Bro, your king is in the center, and I can castle. And you're just going to let me have like a free-for-all here on the diagonal? Wow. So that's like literally waving a red flag in front of a bull. Mr. Coffee's not a bull. He's more like a kind of an ox or something. He might be inclined to just eat some more grass. He's not necessarily going to go nuts if you wave a red flag in front of him. Whereas it's like red meat for some players. The c4 is nuts, huh? I don't really want to take with the pawn and let him trade queens. Now you could push, but you've got to remember that part of his idea is the bishop check, probably. The fact that he can incorporate check. What I was thinking was, like, maybe we can castle and avoid any of that crap. So if we castle, he can take on d5. But that's where things start to get interesting. I mean, I would look at this and say, okay, what happens if he takes the pawn? Can I do anything crazy like queen b6? Because that's like takes, check, king d2. I don't think so. Unclear. But I guess king e2 may be better. King e2 is winning. Alright. Not enough compensation. So what would Ivan Farago do? Or Farago Ivan? Probably he would take, allow the endgame, and you know, be fine with that. Like offer a draw or something. There's also what would Uber Driver do? So here, no, takes, they castle queenside. Check. The problem is I'm afraid that it's only going to be equal if you take. They also have other moves. I don't really want to take. What we're looking for here is something better than taking. So apparently, what? I just put that line in there. I don't know what the computer thinks here. You'd look forward to the complications after castling. Well, okay. I mean, how complicated are the complications is the question. So he takes your pawn on d5, and then it looks like this queen b6 is unsound. This looks like it's unsound. This is seriously unsound. I mean, it's good for a blitz game, but I don't think I would recommend Mr. Coffee to play this way with no idea what's going on. Especially a player who tends to get in time pressure in a game 60 situation. We don't want to do that here. This is too crazy. So taking is an option. I think the first thing you have to realize, though, this isn't bad. The endgame isn't bad. Like, takes, because you have check, knight bd7, knight takes e4, bishop e7, knight takes f6, something like bishop takes f6, bishop takes f6, pawn takes f6. It's a draw, man. I mean, there's no way that either side here has a serious advantage. But we want to win. You know, you can play d4 and screw the check, because the check doesn't really change that much, right? I guess I'm leaning toward d4, because here you also have the queen a5 check winning the bishop. He'll have to take and then make some kind of other move. This is very complicated. Knight e2. Yeah. So I guess, Mr. Coffee, you know, in retrospect, I think your practical bet here would probably be to push. I think you should probably push, and then on check, you know, you just make a natural inner position, and, you know, again, he would have to take. So I'm going to guess this is my best line. Let's see what the computer says. Yeah. So my analysis is spot on. But the computer found something that we all missed. Rather than castle, you can do something similar with the queen b6 right away. Maybe this is better if you want to play for complications. This is the better way to do it. But it looks like objectively, yeah, your best move is push. Best practical try, I think. And now there's various complications. They could push, you know, they can check, they can move the knight, you know, but all lines looks like good chances for black. Instead, you violated our fundamental rule about not playing queen a5. The first goal really is to get those slaggy principles out the window, you know, as fast as possible. So if there's a possibility to play queen a5, do it immediately. When you don't know what to do, play queen a5 or queen a4 if you're white. There it is. Now, like the time that I lost to one Hungarian IM, and he just did like bishop d2. There was a game with Ripunj Bansal also where I did an early queen a5 a month ago in an e6 Sicilian, and he just goes back with bishop d2, and I'm just like screwed. So like bishop d2 might even be a perfectly good move for white here. But our hero takes on f6. Okay, so he takes on f6, he smashes your kingside structure, and then he's going to win a pawn with e takes. And this is very, very dubious for us. Definitely not liking your chances here against Akiva Rubinstein. It's nice that you have a dark square bishop, but it's not enough to justify being down a pawn with a broken king side. The guy's going to get out. You know, he's got 2 moves to castle, and that's all it takes. And he's fast enough to get out of here. So this was a huge mistake. And I don't think you have anything better than moving the bishop, but maybe you should go to g4. Objectively, my problem with bishop f5 is that it looks like you're encouraging him to trade pieces with bishop d3. I think it's okay, though. You can play bishop g6. So if bishop d3, bishop g6, and then at least if he takes here, you can try to fix your structure with, like, you know, g takes. But I think what you don't want to get into is a situation where he's trading off your bishop pair for his, like, kind of bad white square bishop. You don't really want this. Further simplifying the game, leaving with a huge hole on f5, 2 knights against bishop and knight, pawn up, better structure. At least if you're going to play bishop f5, when he goes here, go here, and try to, encourage him to do this to fix your pawn structure a little bit. But ultimately, maybe that's why. This is a consideration, but your knight is too hard to get in the game. So I would have played bishop g4, I think. Yeah, it's not a big deal. White can just check or go e2. You're down a pawn with a bad structure. So it's a disaster so far. Check. This is fine. Knight d7. Okay, and now castles. And yeah, and you're basically close to lost with a horribly dubious position. But again, close to lost. Objectively, you're only down one pawn. Maybe the bigger issue is your king position and your pawn structure. So the damage is done. It feels safer to castle kingside, but he has a really big square in f5. Obviously, knight h4 immediately. So for example, castle knight h4 immediately. Yeah, I agree, Sun Prism. I think the castling long was justified here. If Mr. Coffee tried to play this, it looks like you got a huge problem right out of the gate with knight h4. And too easy to attack you on the white squares there. So, c-file, you can mitigate that, put your king on b8. And if you have a bad position, it's better to complicate, obviously. Okay, castle and queenside was a good decision. Now white played, quiet move, a3, with a very simple threat. Maybe not the best move, though. You're probably forcing the opponent to make a good move here. Bishop d6. Rook c1, another automatic kind of move. Forcing the opponent to make a good move. Okay, king b8. And now knight d4. Again, not a lot of choices. I think you have to go here. And now let's see what he does. Queen b3. This feels like some kind of slightly cheap attempt to get in some kind of knight c6 trick. It looks like a cheapo. He's threatening bishop takes here and knight c6 check. But it's fairly easy for you to defend against that. First of all, you could play queen b6. I'm not sure this is a long-term solution now, because he could just defend his knight. With this move, you avoid exchanges, which is good, but you're obviously putting yourself in a fork scenario. So I'm not sure what I would do with black here. I want to avoid tricks. I want to avoid exchanges, but knight c5 isn't really a super safe square. Well, as long as our queen is on a5. Obviously you can play queen a5 or queen b6 and then play like rook d1, knight c5 on the next move. Other defenses, sticking your knight on e5 with looking at this square. You obviously have to watch for this type of stuff where your bishop will get smushed. But our only hope in this position is really the dark squares. Your only hope is the fact that you have a dark square bishop and white doesn't. Other than that, we don't have any compensation. So I don't know. This doesn't feel like a plan. Queen a2. That's obviously great. It's very dubious the way he's stationed his queen. Ultimately, if you go back a couple moves, think about it. Wouldn't this make more sense? Okay, he has to watch knight e5 as well. So I guess it's not so easy for him to decide, placement of the queen. If it was me, I would have considered this, of course. Trading queens when we're up a pawn with a better structure, probably not a bad choice. Yeah. Yeah, now you're undermining that knight on d4. You stepped out of the threat. Your knight has some squares, obviously. So he plays rook f d1, guarding d3, guarding his knight. Now you played rook c8, which I'm not crazy about. What we'd like to see is some sort of counterplay. There's his king. No, my first thought is rook g8 here. I think that's most aggressive players' first thought. And obviously it can be easily defended with something like g3. But again, you have pawns here. You can play h5, h4, open him up. There's also a case for the other rook, but, isn't this rook playing a role here by maybe, we're controlling the blockading square? One of the things I don't like about rook c8 is that it, gives up blockade. I think what Mr. Coffee is thinking that he might want to bring his queen back, which is actually a good fucking idea. Because when you think about it, if I do this, does he have b4? And is your queen trapped on knight a4? Oh no. Mr. Coffee had an idea. He realized his queen is trapped on b6. So he wanted to give his queen a retreat square. The other possibility would be like a6. Because you could do what he did, with queen a7. This is not ideal, but it's got to be a pretty useful move to play a6. Honestly. Still, it's going to be a scary situation. Let's say bishop f1, rook g8, b4, knight, wherever, and then this, and he's coming in here. So queen a7. And a6 might give him something to chip away on with like b5. I agree. It's not clear, not easy. Here, now b4. We're clearly in a lot of trouble. You played knight e4. You've got good control of c3 now. So at this point, I think white can very seriously consider trading. But he has a problem with rook takes d1. Rook takes c1, sorry. Rook takes c1, rook takes c1. Queen takes, no. I guess bishop takes e4. Your pieces are fairly active. So, alright. He plays knight a4 now. And you played winning a piece. The dude dropped a piece. Mr. Coffee. Mr. Acerbate. Wow, that just straight up drops a piece. The poor guy. So he has to play knight takes e4. Or maybe here. But let's say knight e2, bishop e5, and you have something here. You got something going on, Mr. Coffee. So I'm gonna have to make, a statement on b4. Yeah, I don't like the way he played it. Looks like b4 is a mistake. Knight e4 here, losing a piece. Boom, boom. Oh, it's not so simple. Okay, check, and you knight d2 though. I thought it was like back rank mate, but it's he's got g3 yet. Damn. All right. So he plays an in-between move. Check. King c7. King c7. I'm gonna need to see why king c7 isn't better. You don't like it? c2's covered. I mean, c4 is not a problem, even if you check there. But, yeah, this is his key. So you go in the corner, he goes g3. And now, obviously, you have really brutal stuff. Bishop d3. To me, this looks... How's his queen doing? Over there, anyway. I like it. This looks good. Stop here! It's not much to see. Okay, knight takes f1. Ooh, you got the knight e3. So he has to go up. And then another check. Oh no, and then you win more stuff. Rook d2. And if he takes, you take, he takes, you take, you're up a rook. That didn't help him. And it's over. Okay. Stop here. Alright. So on knight e4, Coffee had sufficient compensation. And the guy should have taken on e4. He has to take on e4. So this the line I said. Take, take, bishop takes. And black has just enough compensation for the sacrificed pawn. Alright, Mr. Coffee, not a good opening, but you got away with it with a little bit of dynamic defense. Alright, Sun Prism is up next. Dynamic. There's Nefedov. Yeah, little Dosudmirsky. George Dosudmirsky. Nefedov not enjoying your maypole dancing today? You're not a pagan? I never have off. The Hungarians constantly have holidays, man. Every week is a holiday here. It was just Easter. Now it's like May Day. It's a holiday every week. I work constantly. Don't pagans drink brown beer? I thought brown beer went back to pagan times. We'll do Nefedov next. They've uncovered brown beer bottles, ancient archaeological, pagan digs. All right, watching me is a questionable decision. All right, so this is Sun Prism. Sun Prism. This is an OTB game. Is anybody here going to be playing any? It's an online game, not OTB. Is anybody here going to be playing OTB? I have one of my week rapid tournaments tomorrow. I'm going to bring a friend of mine to the rapid tournament who hasn't played like tournament chess in 30 years or something. He's a poker player who used to play chess but never really much, just like casually in the cafe where the people play like dominoes and chess. So it'll be funny because he's around like 1900. He's around 1900 FIDE strength. It'll be funny to see how he does, because the tournament I'm playing in is like a lot of people, between like 17 and 2000. So I think my friend will fit right in to this group of players. You play with Word tomorrow. You need to prep to Schliemann. Alright, let's see what we got here. Oh, I had some weird Schliemann yesterday. I played the Queen e4 move. Something weird happened, something I had never encountered before. I'll have to remind... When we go over a game, I'll take a look at it. So... Need more brown beer. Alright. Does brown beer help with brain fog, by any chance? How much alcohol content does your beer need to really help with Finvar with brain fog? All right. Sun Prism is white. All right, 15%. 15% brown beer. So, yeah, I mean, the Ruslimo is good. This move is not good. Calling your bluff. The problem with a6, of course, is not constructive. I don't understand, like, you know, the story, again, I'll tell is how Nezbudinov used to play it. He had one game in the collection of his games where he played Shamkovich, and Shamkovich played a6. I don't understand how a player of Shamkovich's level, you know, an experienced grandmaster level player, I don't know, was in the Armed Forces Championship in the late 40s or 50s, late 50s, I guess. 40s too early. Late 50s Armed Forces Championship. Why would Shamkovich play a6? I mean, he knows this is against principles. That was surprising to me. I've seen a few examples, other players. You can see some grandmasters here. Kozul, Pirun. I mean, so they're playing it like, despite knowing it's not a good move, they're still playing it. Well, I mean, a6 is bad because it wastes time, and it also takes away the a6 square from the bishop on a6, which is a minor factor. It weakens the b6 square. I mean, a6 doesn't really have any upsides. The only upside it has is that it forces white to commit, you know. As we can see, like, no one has ever played bishop e2 here. Oh, one game. That bishop could have come from anywhere. So take, now d takes. Yeah, I'm surprised by d takes. I don't get it, you know, what the b takes is. Why not b takes? It's funny though, vast majority of players did take with the d pawn. What's their idea? To play e5? They're hoping to play like e5? I always intuitively want to take toward the center. That's so funny. There's a game here. Eugene Perelstein, John Frankel, 2005. Strangely enough, John Frankel, first time ever, was suggested to me on Facebook yesterday. A chess player who I've never met, who we both won the Boylston Chess Club Championship, although like 15 years apart, or 20 years apart, or something like that. He studied in Boston. A lot of people studied in Boston and then left, you know, and I'm a typical example. I went to school in Boston, so anyway. Okay. John Frankel, Bill Harrington, Slaggy, people who've been Boylston Chess Club champion. Okay, so b takes c, I like that better, but instead, black plays d takes c. I guess if you could play e5, you'd have what looks a lot like it obviously looks a lot like an exchange Lopez, except, you know, this pawn being on c6 creates a hole here. The weakening of b6 seems significant to me. That's not really beneficial for black necessarily, having played, you know, c6, whereas in the normal exchange Lopez, it's like on c7. The pawns would be on c7 and c6, not c6 and c5. c5 might be okay, but this square is weak now. But the big thing for me is, you know, are we going to sit here and let black play e5? We can't. We don't want to let black play e5. So if you castle, can black play e5? No. Volodar Mersian, son of Mersian, son of Creepy Mersian, who I played in 1997. Knight takes e5. This is just losing a pawn for black. Easy to be 2600 when your opponents play like that. So you could castle, alright? That way you'd have more flexibility. Another extreme move for white here would be like e5, physically preventing black from playing e5. That also I don't think is a good idea. Giving up the d5 square, weakening your white squares in general. Alright, so that's out. But again, the number one thing is to not let black play e5. You played d3, this seems to be the main move. Now black's main move is queen c7, which threatens to play e5. The d4 is really counterintuitive. You don't want to play d4 and undouble the guy's pawns, in most cases. So this seems to be the issue. Black plays queen c7, and then it's hard to stop him from playing e5. See, here people played e5, and it's still, I think, kind of debatable. Most people did not. It looks like we're going to have to let black play e5, but a4 is an interesting move. See, that has the best score. a4 with the idea of clamping with a5. Clamp, please, nurse. If white plays a4, black kind of has to play a5, I feel like. Yeah, see, one player played e5, allowing a5. I mean, this doesn't look good. This square is awful for black. The b6. So anyway, your opponent played this. This is a disaster. Bishop g4 is an unmitigated disaster. Solskis versus Horvath Peter. That dude who's streaming all the time lost with white against Kozhel. How do you lose with white against Kozhel in this position? That's insane, bro. Oh my god. This position is like clear advantage to white. Even, it's unbelievable. How could Horvath Peter play this? After h3? I mean, the good news for black is that he hasn't played e5. It might be good news. If you intend on playing bishop takes f3, then you don't really want to be playing e5, putting all of your pawns on the wrong color. I guess if you play h3, bishop takes f3, you do something like g6, and, you know, try to not make your bishop that bad. So h3, and now bishop takes f3, and this is how Jurica Serbis, the guy who's streaming every day, he lost against Kozhel from this position. My god, dude. How can you lose? How could Kozhel even play like this? In 2011, dude, what is he doing? This is just such a perfect position for white. Yeah, now I think e5 is like clear advantage to white. So you gotta try something else. g6. Jesus Maria. e5. So Kozhel played e6. He realized he doesn't want to put his pawns on dark squares, but this is almost as bad as e5. I mean, black's position is just ridiculously stupid. And what Gleck did here makes sense. a4. a4, bishop e7, a5 plan. Clear advantage to white. Wolfgang Schmidt trades off his dark square bishop, and Gleck doesn't even care because black's so lost strategically. It's like, forget about it on the queen side. With the knight on c4, it's over, dude. So anyway, okay, your opponent plays bishop h5. This has apparently been played. Horvath Peter, it wasn't enough that he did it once, he did it twice, he did it 3 times. That was the 90s. Alright, now, white has no obligation to play g4 in this position. I think that's the first thing we need to point out. 3 out of 5 moms played g4, but the bigger question is why? Why would white play g4? The black bishop is misplaced. It really doesn't do a lot. I mean, maybe black can play f6 and bishop f7. Is that the idea? I just feel like g4 might be a little overrated. Why do we have to commit to g4 necessarily? Is there something more constructive that white can do? You didn't, but your castling kingside also commits to some degree. So what I want to do here is try to be as flexible as possible. Castling's committal, g4 is committal, but what's not committal? You know, what's maybe constructive but not committal? I mean, what is black's plan? To play f6 and e5 without getting his bishop taken out? Maybe? That kind of seems like his only idea. So there's a couple games with bishop e3. This Polish IM, Hundek and Shikloshi played it. I lost to Shikloshi in a bishop e5. Actually. Not that long ago, 7 or 8 years ago. So bishop e3 and now e6. So they don't play f6. They have to defend the pawn. Now knight on bd2. And now queen c7. And now queen e2. Knight f6. Idea here. And Zoli castled queenside here. Both of these are good players. Here. Bishop g6. Knight h4. Bishop e7. It looks like white is better. But in my experience, like, a lot of times in simple positions like this, like in the Slav, Nefedov, the knight comes back to g2. Maybe not necessarily taking that bishop and open up the h file. Like I said, the Horvath Petty's idea is to bring the bishop back, probably, ultimately. So that's the idea. If you can keep it, and then eventually play e5 later, maybe it's not so bad for black. I have a message. Mr. Slow is here. All right. But anyway, this is just some thoughts, because I don't really like g4 that much. You castled. Your opponent played this, though. Here's an interesting game. This guy is quite a good player. Ludici Lorenzo. I've noticed some of his games. With Ludici, Ludici maybe. My Italian is non-existent. So, Ludici Lorenzo, Italian Championship, 2023. His opponent with a classic Italian name, Artem. Alright, so castles, queen c7, bishop e3, and now Lorenzo played e5. We can go for that bishop with g4 at that point, and then play knight h4. I mean, it seems like a reasonable approach. Okay, so your opponent plays knight f6. Now, is there some sort of idea of like c4? Or what's he gonna do? Notice that no one else played knight f6. Another possibility is for you to do pawn sack to disrupt his position. Mr. Slow, what's up? You got time for a game. Would it be insane to do this just because we can? It's not that effective, I guess, with the bishop on h5. Still, I mean, it is possible. It's still disruptive. I think it might still be good. Understandably, you probably didn't want to commit to that. You played bishop e3, and now your opponent, I'm expecting knight d7. Kind of the sensible way to play. but he goes there. It's also reasonable. So we could kind of transpose to Shikoshi versus Horvath Petty with Queen C7. He's not really focusing on the E5 square. Now what you did I don't like at all. This has to be bad. White has definitely the better position here. But you push your knight on the b3, and there are a couple problems with this move. You know, the first problem is that that's easily defended by b6. But what I'm more concerned about is black possibly playing c4 and undoubling his pawns. You do not want that to happen here. I mean, he could do it right away. This knight is performing an important function. I mean, it's not just guarding e4, it's also stopping black from undoubling pawns. So, here's the thing about this queenside structure, though. If your opponent is ever going to do the queen c7, knight d7, castle queenside thing, you know, you might want to play a3 and b4. But if they're not going to do that, or even if they are, you still might want to do a4, a5. So you have two different ways to play on the queenside. There's the lock it down with a5, but there's also the a3, b4 break it down. So both are possible, but in either case, I don't think you're ever putting your knight on b3. Unless, like, maybe if you wedged your pawn to a5 and you had, like, both knights going to, like, b3 and c4 or something. This is a bad move. So he could just go here directly. You don't want to give him your e4 pawn. What would you do? You know, you have to move your knight again now. Something like this. Your knight is almost trapped. Now g4. Okay, we could have done that. We should have done that. If you're going to do that without knight b3. Bishop g6, and now knight e5. So the one good thing about knight b3 is that you managed to weaken his c6 pawn. Now black will have to defend with the queen. He does. And you have f4. Starting to like this. Still, you're actually preventing knight c4 now with knight takes c4. Other possibility is that f5 might actually be a threat in some positions where the queen gets trapped on e5 by bishop f4, but the b2 pawn is not protected. Queenside castles. Wow, we had a notification. Mr. Slow has donated $21. We're going to need to see a game submission from Mr. Slow. That's going to require you donate a game submission. Dragonfly Hunter, welcome. Well, I mean, what I'm talking about, yeah, is the f4, castle queenside f5 type of thing where they take this, we play bishop f4, they take the pawn, and now like rook here. This looks like he's getting away. We're going to have it worked out a little bit better in order for that to work. You already sent it. Ah. Alright. If time interest. Oh, OTB from almost the last century. Wiesbaden. Whitewater. Alright, chapter PGN. Chapter PGN, copy PGN. Copy PGN. Learn, study. Alright, Mr. Slow. Add a new chapter. So anyway, we're in the middle of Sun Prism game here. Nephidab is next. I've got, all pretty standard moves. Black's play is extremely dubious. This makes sense. You're eyeing a6. c4 is not on. We don't really want to take on g6. We'd like to have something better. And Black can get to a situation where he's starting to kind of run out of moves now. I mean, ultimately, if you can move your knight, you're trapping his bishop with f5. You have to watch the queen on the diagonal. Black's counterplay oftentimes will, rely on something like h5, h6, but his bishop's going to get captured, shredding his structure. So it looks like Black is in really, really major danger here. Let's say knight d7. Knight d7, rook d7, f5. The problem is there's this check here. And that is a serious problem. As long as we can't play f5 because of the check on g3, we're not threatening anything. And so the moral of the story would be that knight d7 is playable. And this is also not so great. We don't really want to settle for that. So we have to do something, though. You could move the knight again. I mean, move it back, avoid exchanges. If knight c4, you might start to see stuff like h5. If you go to this side, maybe that's better. That would give you another piece to cover your king in case of crazy stuff happening. But Black can maybe try to prevent the bishop from getting trapped now. It gives him time. So I don't know what to do. I mean, it looks like knight d7 is a reasonable shot. Yeah, maybe queen f3 would have been better. So here, here, here. The only thing about queen f3... Well, alright, we always have this covered, right? Yeah. Yeah, queen f3 is better. This is just bullshit. Attacking a6 is like never going to happen. And queen f3 would guard the g3, give you a little more space. So now if knight d7, let's look at the direct effect of this. Knight d7, rook takes d7, f5. And now I think you're really winning a piece. Take. Black's reduced to some kind of totally bullshit bluff. And you're winning. You're just winning. Takes. Queen takes. I mean, he has some smoke and mirrors, but I don't think that it should work. It looks like you're right. It's kind of like a Nimzo. Oftentimes you play queen e7, but sometimes queen f6. With that extended pawn on g5 in the Nimzo, for example, this is like, it's like a bird's. Yeah, it makes sense. Queen f3 is bird's stonewall attack. So h5, he doesn't lose any pieces now. But the major question is like, is this ever something that we want to do? It's not so easy to attack those pawns. If they can't be attacked, they're not weaknesses. What are you going to do? Like, attack them through your pawns or with a white square bishop you don't have? With your knight on b3? Please don't put your knight on b3 again. This knight needs to recycle back into the game. Okay, so no knight takes g6. Here, I think you could play, various moves, like even king g2. Because I'm not convinced that the h-file is, like, deadly. But, by the same token, it's not pleasant to let him open the h-file. Generally speaking, you don't want to put your pawns on dark squares. You want to put your pawns on white squares. This is the ideal structure for white because you have a dark square bishop. The same for black. Of course, he wants to have pawns on dark squares with a light square bishop. But he has two bishops, so it's not so easy for him to decide where to put the pawns. When you have just one bishop, it's easy to know where your pawn should go. So, g5, unfortunately, although it's certainly not a bad move and gains space, blocks our bishop's scope there a little bit. Alright, g5, knight d7. Now you took, but I think it's a really debatable call again. Closed position, knights are better than bishops. I think there's a very strong argument here for not taking his bishop. This one is kind of vague because you're really flirting with this sort of b5, knight a5, where your knights are kind of redundant type of thing. I would give this consideration, but then again, there's the c4 type of crap where he starts to unravel your blockade. So honestly, it's not easy to say. Okay, you took. You can play e5. There's a possibility you could play some counterintuitive move here, like e5, where you kill all of his pieces. Even though this looks kind of stupid. Where is his knight gonna go? Imagine if you play c4 later. I mean, this is his knight, right? That's it. That's kind of a problem. I mean, you can play your knight to... You can get your knight to e4. And you can play on the queen side with stuff like a3, b4, breaking him open. Or maybe c4, a3, b4. So it's not like the queen side is locked, like the king side. So I don't think that e5 is necessarily a bad move. But on the other hand, you don't have to play that right away either. But this move is maybe good too. You got your cheapo in, finally. Frankly, though, black's position is difficult in any case. It looks like d4 is quite okay. Yeah. This is the point. You're going to win a pawn. So what should black do? Maybe king b7? Just defend pawn? He played h4. Check, queen b7. If you trade queens and played anything, I think you're winning. But instead you played this. This also looks good. He has to play knight f8, and that's the knight we're talking about a minute ago. Yeah, it's over. Black is lost, man. It's too much space. He's totally desperate. This is kind of greedy. To be fair, it's a little greedy. If you go e5, though, he gets the square for his rook. I mean, there's a lot of winning moves in this position for you. He has a chance to break out with e5. But I'm sure this is fine. You're winning all of his pawns. Not really what we wanted to see. So there's a very unpleasant surprise. I said it was greedy. He has a tactic, knight takes g5, and they had to play that. And your whole pawn structure gets completely shredded now. So I felt like he should probably trade queens. So what's our pawn count? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He's 4 pawns down. Jesus. 4 pawns down. Not that I want to take this one so much as maybe the central pawn on e5, like check. Here. Knight takes e5. I mean, pawn takes pawn, you're up 4 pawns, you're up 3 pawns. But it almost seems like a better try than what he did. After queen e5, going there. Maybe not. Maybe this is a reasonable try. The G file. I can understand not wanting to take this. You can probably take this, but yeah, it's scary after this. I mean, it's possible you're winning. Bishop f4. It's not only possible, it's probable you're winning. But instead you just ignored him and went here. Now, are you threatening anything? You are. You're threatening pawn takes pawn. The problem is he can take with the queen on h3. No, he can't because the queen takes e7. Aha. So if he takes on h3, you have queen e7, and it's probably over. So the only way, yeah. And then there. And he's going to lose a queen. I thought you would play knight a5 check. Damn, is that mate? Almost. It's not like black has any threats. This is also... I want to say this is also good. Maybe c6 check. He resigned here due to mate. This is better. Alright. I'm going to take a very short break, guys. Knight f3 was his only move, not queen d7, unfortunately for him. Oh, knight f3? What? Oh, shit. Knight f3, he can invert it. So you have to sack the exchange. Suddenly it's not so clear. Black is better after that. Oh, man. No, I told you were greedy to grab the pawn on g7. This is like... I understand you probably are winning, but it's kind of like, why? You know, you're winning on the queen side, don't take the pawn. Don't give him any counterplay. You gave him counterplay. I'll be right back. Back momentarily. Thank you guys for your support. all that I just said, everything I just said was muted. Alright. I'm gonna just... Shit. Brain fog is probably due to lack of alcohol. That's the first thing. Secondly, yeah, I should really drink more than once a week because I don't know what it's doing to my brain. Second thing, Sung Prism, you're winning on the queen side. You could have even exchanged queens. And I think it's a good example of a situation where you're strategically winning and you guys aren't lip readers. Don't drink and analyze. Not enough alcohol. I mean, seriously, I'm suffering from lack of alcohol derangement syndrome. Sung Prism, even exchanging queens on B7, I just checked it with the engine. It's like +3, almost +3. So that should be enough. It's important to just remember that, where you don't need to be greedy when you're up material. There's no prize, for taking more material to the Egyptian, tomb with you. You're not going to the river Styx with all your stuff at the end of the day. So you just got to win the game and not lose, obviously, in order to do that. So Martin F. Fischer, he was feeling Fischer against Nefedov. So let's check it out. He must know. He's been forewarned about the Schliemann. E4, E5, knight F3, knight C6, bishop C4, knight F6 now. Serious question. There are rumors circulating that allowing the fried liver is coming back into fashion. Now, Nefedov is definitely a classicist, and he would never believe in this crap, but now the statistics, we know that D5 is black's best move. Alright, E takes D5. Now, if I play knight takes D5, white has a crushing score. It's always been, rumored to be basically winning for white or refuted or whatever. Who knows what happens in the realm of correspondence chess? But with engines becoming stronger and stronger, I'm kind of half expecting there to be more games where people would just brute force analyze this. So knight F7. That doesn't work. Knight F7. There's also D4, huh? Maybe. Man. Solodovnichenko lost. Another guy lost. See, Solkis is crazy enough to play this. He plays the Cochrane Gambit with white. Of course he would play the fried liver with black. What do you think? So D4 is... Get those arrows out of here, man. Where is my settings? I hate those arrows. Where is the settings? Show variation arrows? No. Alright. I'm just mentioning it, because Scam Shanklin is doing courses on the fried liver, from what I heard. E takes D5, knight takes D5, knight takes F7, king takes F7, queen F3 check, king E6, not refuted, knight C3, knight B4, castles, C6, and this is the end of my knowledge. D4. But I was analyzing on the other computer. But the interesting thing is that this actually may not be lost for black. Point 7 is not convincing. Queen f6. And now there's a debate between queen e2 and queen d1. But it looks like the evaluation is that of like a normal opening. White is better by 0.6 after queen e2. 0.6, that's a totally like standard opening kind of advantage. Truly, okay, it's not easy to play with your king exposed in the middle of the board. Anyway, alright. So Nefedov plays the classical. Now b5 is a move, like Mr. Slow said. This is also played. Knight d4 is also played. But Nefedov is a big believer in the Chigorin main line. Check. No. Homie did not check. Always check. That looks like a Lichess like 1200 playing white. Knight takes c4, queen takes c4, queen takes d5, and he's hoping to like somehow draw like a slightly worse endgame where black has the bishop pair. Not liking his chances. If I play h6, for example, just giving white more options. This pawn. Definitely this happened to me in an online game. But I guess if queen takes c7, bishop d6. With advantage to black. So our hero's opponent plays queen takes d5, knight takes d5. Okay, so now Nefedov out of the opening with black against the amateur, weakish amateur, judging by his opening play. Is a bishop pair and a strong central pawn enough to win the game? Pretty damn close, I think. I would think like Magnus Carlsen in a match here against an engine would like score 0. But that would happen in most positions. Yeah, this is enough to win. White has a huge problem with c2, in addition to his other problems. So that means he might not even be able to castle. In addition to the fact that what black has the bishop pair and a strong pawn in the center. Can white just leave that pawn undefended by castling? So see, it gets worse. He has to actually play this horrible concession a3 in order to prevent knight b4 attacking the c2. Maybe it's not worth it though. Can we just like get a face hugger instead? Would it be better? Would it be better just to allow it? You know, castle, knight b4, knight a3. I'm not sure Nefedov would play knight b4 right away, but I mean, maybe it is better just to allow our knight to be like saddled with a3 than having to play the move a3. I think the cure might be worse than the disease here. White also doesn't need any more pawns on dark squares. Oh no! No! Buy 2 drinks. Any 2 for $2.50. Oh no. Oh no. There's just another tragedy every day. Alright, so yeah. Maybe D3. And then if knight b4, we play knight a3. Just live with it. I mean, also black has to be careful about this. I mean, black has to get developed as well. So I think this makes it worse, probably. It's a cheap and an ineffective way of... Ultimately, it's like you're cheap and you're trying to save money. But your saving money ends up costing you more money in the long run. Because you bought something that had very low quality. That's what we're seeing here with the a3. It's a low quality solution that ends up costing white more in the long run anyway. So Nefedov should perhaps kick the knight off. But, this is a very natural move. I can't imagine bishop f5 is bad. It's just not the best. Now d3, f6, he'll go knight e4. And where do we want to put our king? Castle kingside, castle queenside, or king f7? Buy your beer online. That's what you get for trying to buy cheap beer, Arsenal fan. Notice how he called them drinks. Just to be politically correct. Arsenal's I went to buy 2 drinks at the store. The liquor store. Alright. Bishop f5. f6. Knight e4. Castle queenside. Oh, there was a vicious trappy move. Happy trap. The other side. But what's the big deal? Knight f4 is all fine and good till someone loses an eye. You got the sort of Scotch type of themes like d4, sacrificing the pawn on g2 with check, king f1, and your knight is trapped. Well, not exactly, but maybe black gets some counterplay. Knight f4 looks unstable. I would never play that. Too many good moves here to be playing knight f4. Bishop f5 looks fine. I mean, what does the computer want you to do? F5 or something? You could play f5, preventing knight e4 forever. Or you could play... Yeah, the computer will probably come up with something like f6, knight e4, f5 or something. You could do that. Just completely try to dominate. I think he might go here. Challenge your knight on f6. On d5, that is. Anyway, I mean, there's too many options, Nefedov. There's no way you're going to play this perfectly. Too many options here. It's very hard to play this perfectly. But clearly, you want to kick the knight. You could also play bishop e7. I think there's a lot of good moves. Don't be too hard on yourself. f6, a little hesitant. Okay, castle queenside. You got the open file here. Botvinnik approved. He's going to challenge that knight. I would be, playing knight to c3 as fast as possible. The more exchanges, the better. White should try to trade pieces, especially the strong knight on d5. Of course, he's always going to be worse against those 2 bishops. But he castled, okay, and then h5. So at this point, Nefedov just said, look, that's enough development. I'm going to attack. He decides to play h5. Now, g5 would be good, but you're allowing stuff like c4 when the f6 might be weak. Obviously, bishop e7 is a good move too. Just supporting g5. If we want to attack on the king side, we want to attack with flow. So I think probably g5, h5, where the pawns are kind of, next to each other. Although h5 is certainly fine. It's not like, oh my god, I'm afraid he's going to play f4. He can play f4. I don't think it's safe. Main idea for white here, trade off your knight. And now, you know, there's a case here for you to not trade pieces. Because you have more space. You could also play c6. I mean, c6 looks really okay. This move, for example, we're a little worried about something like a4, a5, but even that is possible. This move is interesting because you could recirculate it back to c6 and focus on that square. But I think here, now that we've taken pressure off of these squares, this is the kind of scenario where f4 comes in, and it might actually be okay for white. You know, this is the problem with pulling the knight off of d5. He chips away at our center. You know, we probably have to take. He takes back with the bishop. And if our plan was to do this, it's kind of slow. By the time, you know, we're doing that, he's hitting us with, like, I don't know, bishop takes c7, and we're tactically losing to, like, rook takes f5. So retreating knight may be too slow. I think it's reasonable to assume what Nefedov does here is okay. And then the main thing is that if he takes with the pawn, it's hasta la vista structure. So I think at that point, like, you probably take, as much as you don't really want to give up the bishop pair. This structure is going to be really tough for white to survive. It's almost a certainty that one of those pawns falls. Something like rook d6 and over here or here. I don't know. You know, I mean, there's a chance that white, maybe like that doesn't work. Maybe white has some sort of dynamic move here, like f4. But okay, we don't have to rush with it. Could play bishop c5 first. Looks very hard for white to hold. So I think, no, the point is, like, he's going to take back with a knight. And then I am a little concerned about f4. And Nefedov was a little concerned about f4. And therefore g5, exclam. Triple exclam. Stopping the counterplay. Now bishop e3. White is hanging on. He's not threatening to take our pawn. So Nefedov has been accused of being a little routine here by playing a6. The pawns are infused with fruit, and that's really what Nefedov was concerned about. The a7 pawn infused with deadly mushroom. I don't think that a6 is necessarily our best move here, and it looks very, very routine. It's the kind of move you play because you're lazy and you're like, that move's okay. But first of all, he's not threatening to take it because b6 traps his bishop. Bobby Fischer, Spassky. Secondly, I was wondering, you know, are there any cases where, like, b6, king b7, maybe it would be useful to put our king on b7? Just a thought, you know. I'm not sure. I mean, it might give him a4, a5, but we can always meet that, you know, with the a5 ourselves. So I'm thinking, like, this structure might be good, might be fluid. We have two very good islands. White has one good island, but we're slowly going to open him up on the king side, I think. You also might be able to play c6 or c5 later. So I don't know, a6 feels a little too routine to me. Other suggestions, you know, c5 probably gives him too much play with the b4. We'd like to play a Marazzi, nothing wrong with a good Marazzi. But anyway, all I want to do is point out that this is the kind of move that feels a little bit routine to me. Saeeds, you're not late, it's okay. And now knight e4. Infuse with butter and herbs. Ooh, unfortunately the vacuum is getting kind of revved up here. It looks like he has bishop c5 trading pieces. We're going to have to learn to live with a very small advantage at this point. You have b6, but it's too late. Another reason why b6 would have been better. Shit. If we had only played b6 instead, then that threat to exchange pieces on c5 wouldn't exist. Now on this one, we just simply go here, and the dude doesn't have anything, you know? Okay, he can try maybe like b4, but it's going to be a process. b4, a4, he has to defend b4 in order to play a4, etc., etc. Something to think about. Anyway, okay, a6 here, here, here. Now, this is like, beep. It's a bad bishop. It's a bishop, part of a bishop pair. I think you trade it off. And you trade it off as fast as humanly possible. Unless there's a tactical reason why this doesn't work. Let's see. Bishop takes e4, bishop takes e7. I like it. It's sold. Done. Yes, you're still better. Black has to play like bishop takes c5, knight takes c5. Black bishop is stronger than the knight. You're still better. Definitely. Rook d4. But I think it's in white's best interest to trade pieces. He played f3. Here. Yeah, I mean, now, you know, after bishop takes c4, he has f takes e4. Which is going to make that a difficulty, so we definitely can't take on e4. I just wonder if we should still consider b6, avoiding any possible exchanges. The guy doesn't go for this. Now bishop d8. It's too late, bro. Sorry. They're sold out. Karpov. Yeah. No bishop exchange for you, bro. You missed your chance. I'm like suddenly losing my internet. What's going on here? That was weird. Hello? Hello? Alright. Now white is kind of legitimately running out of plans. But if you play g4, he plays f4. Maybe. So what about this? This is like kind of his only plan to advance the queenside pawns. It seems like something like b4. Otherwise, he can only just do passive stuff. Yeah. I think that Nefedov has f5 in his mind. By defending g5, f5 becomes a possibility with a massive pawn storm. A rook g6 is kind of awkward. So, yeah, I'm expecting a bishop move. But Nefi has to be careful here, though. Because it just occurred to me that because he took his rook off the d-file now... Which brings us back, to another question. Like, maybe, this isn't like a Yugoslav dragon. I mean, maybe you should play this and keep that rook on d8, focusing on the center. I mean, if the plan is something like pull back the bishop, play f5, get everything working, ultimately, I'm not really a huge fan of taking this rook off the d-file. What does the engine say? It likes it. It likes my b6. It likes rook d g8. Why doesn't it like rook h g8? There's a problem. Oh, because we need that. Yeah. So that's the huge thing. That's the huge thing. Now, the reason why Nefertari gets the bishop back to d8, of course, we need that square for the bishop to go back to d8. But on the downside, he might be able to play d4, breaking our center now. So what happens if white does like d4? If I'm this dude, I'm definitely playing d4. Definitely. Why not? What is Nefi going to do after d4? Take and play rook h6 again? It kind of looks like you have to. No, but I mean, what if he plays this now? It looks like we don't have anything. Like take, and yeah. Maybe black is a tiny bit better. But the dude plays this. It's maybe setting it up. I'm not sure rook a1 is that bad here. But he needs to do it now before it's too late, I feel like. Computer doesn't like it. He did it. The engine doesn't like it. Screw you, engine. I liked it. It was better on the last move. We're going to assume. I see. So I think the reason why the engine doesn't like it is because there's this first and then d4. But I mean, what does that achieve? Drive the bishop back and then play it. But now you're going to get hit by h4. So I'm not really sure how that helps white. d4, g4, oh my god. Yeah, I mean, it's possible, of course. d4, g4. Pawn takes pawn, we're threatening pawn takes pawn. So it kind of looks like white has to do that, and then the c2 pawn is hanging. I guess that's the problem. That's the problem now. In the previous position, when you played rook ae1, doesn't it work there? Like, for example, pawn takes pawn, pawn takes pawn. Maybe, I don't know, maybe this isn't that bad. Like knight takes f6, rook takes g2 check. This doesn't look healthy. I wouldn't want to play this. But maybe white can blockade it or something. So apparently this is inaccurate. This is inaccurate, and now Nefertari finds g4. You guys are good guessers. And now knight g3 ain't good enough. But Nefertari was threatening pawn takes pawn, which looks legitimately very strong. Unfortunately, there's analysis here that it's hard to ignore sitting in front of me. Apparently knight c3. But I mean, no, black is threatening pawn takes pawn, like winning almost outright. So white doesn't have that many options. You can play that. You can play that. But you can't play this. Can you? You can. But after this. Okay, this is complicated. Computer hates it for white. But it's actually pretty subtle. I'm not sure I would have seen this, for black. So after d4, g4, he plays this. and then bishop takes c2. And now I'm like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this variation just loses a clear pawn for white. That's what just happened. The dude just lost his c-pawn. Clearly d4 was a bad move, and he underestimated g4. And so knight g3 was essentially like white panicking now. And the computer points out that knight c3 would be better. Well, I mean, one problem is that h4 is coming with tempo. I mean, seriously, with a knight on g3, the bishop goes to c2, we're going to play h4 with tempo now. With this move here, you have the d5 square, which might be useful. Yes, you're still losing this pawn. But white is like fairly solid in terms of like controlling the center, despite the fact that he's dropped a pawn. His pieces are somewhat coordinated. It's not that bad, probably. His f1 rook can go to f2. It looks like maybe white can put up pretty good resistance. So this is a huge mistake. And the point is now this is a tempo, and black's up a pawn. And now we played rook c1, which has nothing to do with the king side. There's no real play here. So rook c1 is kind of just a reflexive move. In fact, like, you know, the rook might be better here. Because it's lined up with the pawn on e5, it's lined up with the rook, the bishop on e7. White's essentially like developed, and then shifting to the c file doesn't really do anything. And then Nefedov makes a very natural move, bishop e3, which the computer doesn't like. Maybe he has something complex like h4. h4, rook takes c2, h takes g. Difficult to say. I would certainly move the bishop. Bishop d3 is better. This is the engine move, but you know why? Because obviously here is the tempo. Not too many people are going to play bishop d3. I was thinking about this though, honestly. If you ask me, I mean, bishop a4 is worth considering. I think Nefedov's thinking like bishop d5, which is also logical. It's very hard to criticize Nefedov for this move. You know, I mean, this looks perfectly okay. You're coming back here. If you want to be, you know, even further away, you can go there. Then white has moves like d5, probably not a big deal. So I get it. So this knight f5 move came in. That's the problem with moving the bishop off that diagonal. Now you have to go back. But why d8? You just were guarding c7. You have other ways to guard c7 though. You know, you could play rook h7. So Nefedov needs to consider bishop f8 here. If pawn takes pawn, pawn takes pawn, bishop b6. I mean, you can't even do that because of rook takes bishop. I mean, maybe he was worried about rook c3, say. We're going back here. Rook doubles. We're dropping a knight. So I don't know about this. Our guy is kind of restricted. But I like the fact that bishop on f8 dominates that white knight on f5. We can also defend laterally with rook h7. It's nice though, isn't it nice how that rook defends b6 arsenal? Anytime you take here, we just happen to be defending b6. Nefedov brilliant move rook. It's all thanks to the brilliant move rook g6. So bishop d8, debatable. Rook c3, and then bishop d5. And as I said before, I think that was Nefedov's plan. You know, he was expecting to play bishop there, which focuses on attack on the diagonal, and it also even like helps defend. And now f takes g4. Now it's tough because both moves look tempting. I kind of like rook takes. Now the g file seems more tempting than the h file, and you did. Why don't I like bishop d8? Well, I think that the bishop has more mobility here. I mean, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You know, whereas you put it on d8, it's like 1, 2, 3. I mean, it's kind of blocked in. I also don't like the fact that there's these knight d6 tactics. What does my computer say? Bishop d8 and bishop f8 are very close. With bishop d8 pulling ahead at depth 23. Easy, easy for you, who's already checked it with the engine. What does my computer say? As if he hasn't looked at it already. Bishop d8, best move, according to the computer. I think they're both fine. But anyway, the critical thing is here, the dude takes. This looks really bad for white now. We're up a clear pawn. Not just any pawn too. I mean, this pawn on e5, that's like our central bastion. It's a good pawn. Now we have a clear shot against g2. Man, this looks tough. And now you're just begging me to play h4. Oof. Nefedov, you're not going to do it. Don't sack the exchange. Don't sack the exchange. Don't do it. h3, rook takes g3, knight takes g3, pawn takes g3, followed by rook takes h3 and rook h1 mate. I can just feel it coming. I saw the h3 as the next move. All right, let's go one more move. I didn't look beyond that. It said a question mark. But obviously, we didn't come here. Oh no, it's even worse than I thought. So, I mean, I would be enough concerned about this. Like, this might be bad for white. Rook takes g3, knight takes g3, pawn takes g3. How do you protect that? Because you're threatening like this and this. Just saying, like, that's enough of a problem. That this is probably winning for black. I really don't see how he defends. What is he going to play? Like rook c5, bishop e4? And now how do you defend against rook takes h3, rook h1? You can't even attack the bishop on e4. You can't attack the pawn on g3. So, but the funny thing is Nefedov has something even better. Yeah. He just takes with the pawn, because this is mate. Even more efficient. Very cute. Now, we're guessing the opponent was in time pressure. H takes G and mate. Oops! Strong as Astrobate. Now, my only question would be, like, was the other move winning as well? I'm thinking rook takes g3 is winning as well. It is. It is. It is. That's a pedestrian move, rook takes g3. Simply pedestrian exchange sacrifice. Nefedov with the fancy tactical move, h takes g. Alright, good game. Now good luck with your next Schliemann. Alright, we did Astrobate. We still have Mr. Slow. Mr. Slow. versus other dude. And the noob power and Saeed's. Alright. Thanks, guys, for your donations. Don't forget to support the stream. For now, it looks like Transylvania in August, 16th to 24th. Summer Tournament Fund. Alright, we're going to do Mr. Slow versus other dude. This is a 24-year-old game. Just saying. Mr. Slow played this when I was in my prime. I was almost in my prime. My prime was like 2002, 2001, 2002. So Mr. Slow and I were both in our prime. Around the same time. Little did I know. Across the ocean somewhere, Mr. Slow was also in his prime. In 2001. E4, C5, knight F3, D6, D4, CD4, blah, 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 blah. And the opponent played the dragon. Already on the decline. You start early. You started early. I'm a late starter. I didn't really start my decline until like 2005. Well, I mean, when I got here, basically. It all started to unravel in 2000, late 2003. Actually, early 2003 was when it started to unravel for me. At the age of 31. It all starts to fall apart at 31. 30 is your peak, and at 31 you're done. Okay, G6, Bishop E3, Bishop G7, F3. Now castles, Queen D2, Knight C6. And I was looking at G4 with someone. Perani's famous sacrifice, which Tolnai used against Sahis. What do you think about G4? This move worth looking at. I guess it's still an option. If you look at the statistics, White does alright with G4. Okay, so queenside castles. At the time when you played this game in 2001, I was also studying the white side of the dragon, and we were looking at, well, I guess we were looking at this line, D5, and I studied the same line. I've played Queen E1, but I never played E4 enough, to get many tournament games. But this is a main variation. I don't know where it stands these days. Anand Nakamura 2018. Clearly White still has a plus score, so it has to be fine. Duda Nakamura 2018. Carlson Jones 2018. But that was the iconic Carlson Jones game, where Carlson was losing but won. Right? Carlson Jones. Does Jones seriously advocate the dragon? You're like Jones. Jones's second. Mr. Slow is one of Jones's seconds. What do you call it when you're one of Jones's seconds? Jonesing. Alright. Now, the main line is E5. He is the dragon. He is the dragon. I'm the Kraken. Krakens are mightier than dragons. They're like water dragons, but bigger. And they're created from old world gods. Okay, Queen E1. Yeah, so E5's main line. Your opponent played an interesting move though, E6. I gotta say though, E6 feels timid. It feels too timid. E6 makes me not want to do anything. I don't feel like I have to be in a hurry after E6, you know? E5 is the main line for a reason. And I think that black is okay there. But the other dude decided to play, and again, this is a game for 2001, he decided to play E6. Yeah, the inherent problem with this move is that it doesn't do anything. I mean, the one thing it does, it reinforces D5, right? So it does something. But that's not really a problem for us. We're going to attack black on the king side. Now, you know, it feels like with queen e1, maybe white's thinking, you know, we're doing some sort of close Sicilian-esque thing with queen h4, but it's not really the point, is it? I mean, this queen on e1 is, it's not about playing queen h4. It's about getting the queen off the d file and opposing his queen with our rook. And the good thing about queen on e1 is that it keeps an eye on a5. It may reinforce e4. So I guess white's only debate at this point is to play g4 or h4, or some sort of prophylactic move like king b1. That's it. You know, either we play h4, g4, or king b1. Because black isn't threatening anything, you know. So you played the main move h4, and that move has clearly the best stats. But it looks like the other moves are okay too. So any of the three natural moves. This is inherently passive, but it's still good. Ivanchuk Kirill Gergiev, 1993. Oh, there's Howell Jones, 2016. Rook e8. Alright, so this is clearly the most aggressive. G4, yeah, I mean, G4 doesn't really, it doesn't seem great. I mean, what are you threatening? The only way to really kill black is H4, H5. That's what we want to do. We don't want to play G4, G5. We want to play H4, H5 and open up the H file. And G4, what does it do? Weaken F3. H4. Maybe black can play H5. G4 could discourage H5. Alright, so here's my question. If you play H4, can they play H5? It has been played by Crazy Gariev and Zombo Zoltan the Great. There was this episode of The Munsters where there was this like TV monster character called Zombo. Anybody ever see that? Classic television. No, I know Zombo Zoltan. He's higher rated than me now. He's like vision impaired. He plays in like the blind championship, even though he can see. He's one of those guys. He sort of pretends to be handicapped, but he's not really. All right. He's blind, but he can see. So it's kind of weird, like how that works. H4. I agree. And now other dude. What do we do if H5 though? That's kind of my question. Somebody played G4. I just don't know. Am I a believer in this? Takes. H5. Whoa. Is this sound? I hope this is a correspondence game. G takes h5. You gotta have some skill. I'm not sure white played this the best. But apparently, yes. I think the h5 is worth a shot for black, honestly. So it looks like the other move that has a decent score is queen e7, played by Fedorov, notably, who was the dragon expert before Gawain Jones was invented. Yeah. I think you just need to have to use a magnifying glass when you play and you're counted as blind. I think I'm close to qualifying. h4, queen c7. Yeah, now that's not a move that I'm afraid of. Queen c7 is not really a scary move. This was played by Topalov a couple times back in 1996. If it wasn't for the fact that black was getting mated on the h-file, I think his setup would be okay. But this h5, the whole business looks... It kind of just feels like you have the standard dragon attack and black doesn't have enough counterplay. So let's see what happens here. h5. Oh no! I sacrificed the pawn. So Amashi Kuro from 94 is the oldest game. Some dude lost to McShane in 2017. A 2400. But I mean, this is not considered to be maybe reliable way for black to play. Okay. h5. And now, where is black's dynamic counterplay? Queen c7. Ooh, it's so scary. Black has no threats whatsoever. His bishop's still on c8. And we're just doing the h-file thing to him. Kind of seems dreamy. Okay, what about controlling e5? Can black take on d4 and play e5 or something? This is what I'm wondering. Here, bishop takes and then e5. So here we go. 5 games. Apparently this is the idea. Notice that a5 is still controlled. The queen has to move, so it goes to some logical square. And now the bishop goes to c3 and white's threatening bishop e4. Though winning the exchange isn't always decisive in the dragon. We should note the game Tomas Utar versus Kirill Gergiev from 91. Knight takes h5. Bishop e4 doesn't win the exchange. It's just a trade. White is better by 1 pawn. But the game is very much still up in the air. So Kirill Gergiev, what happened there? They just agreed to a draw? Oh shit. So Kirill Gergiev played knight takes h5 and offered a draw. Dude, I guess so. He played it and offered a draw. Good idea. When I saw him at the World Senior, I told him that he played e4, d4, c6, e4, b5 against me. He said, yeah, I like to play crazy things in opening. Okay, h5, knight takes h5, g4, and now he does knight takes d4. And now we do bishop takes d4. And now black does bishop takes d4. Really not happy about black losing his dark square bishop. Let's see, rook takes d4, queen f4 check. So this is all theory. And so this is a Kira-Gergiev thing. King b1, queen g3. So your opponent played a novelty now, queen g3. Black's development is kind of lagging, and we don't want to trade queens. I really don't like black trading his dark square bishop, to be honest, but it looks like this is the point. There's a problem here. So a game as recent as 2017 where McShane won. You don't trade queens. You're just winning a piece now. H takes g6. And the dude drew. Wow, black drew this game. This is an OTB game from 2012 in Germany. Polzin is a strong player. I don't know the other guy. Well, pretty strong player anyway, 92. And apparently, like, black was completely losing and somehow got a draw. So this line is very dangerous for black. But he's supposed to play this. This is interesting, Mr. Slow. There's a game from 96, a game from 98. So knight g3, rook h3. Even knight takes f1. But black has this move queen e5 here. So this move, let's check Lichess. I bet there's a ton of games. No games found. Holy shit. No games found, guys, in the Dragon on Lichess. That's crazy. So it looks like queen e5 may actually, like, save black. Maybe black's not losing. He's worse, though. Knight f1, queen f1. d4, f4. Queen g7, knight e2, bd7, f5. Okay, it's still better for white in all lines. So your opponent played queen g3. This is apparently inaccurate. You don't want to trade queens. He plays queen f4. You repeated. Then you went back here. So now you're threatening to take with the pawn. Because your queen is protected. So your opponent naturally tries to save his knight. But his queen is attacked. Goes here. And now Mr. Slow played bishop e2. To protect g4. And trap the queen with f4. So no square, no square, no square. His only square is e5. But after he plays e5, he prevents you from playing f4. Okay. And now what? I was half thinking you're going to play this. You played that. Black could theoretically play e4, but I guess that doesn't do anything. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's equal material. It looks like black is holding the line on the king side. It's similar to the game that we saw between Luther and. There was one line with white getting a pawn on d5, but the king side attack is kind of stalled. It's going to be hard to break black's kingside with those 4 pawns over there. But the central pawn is very strong. Maybe white's better, but not in a traditional kind of like checkmating attack. You would think like black would want to get his rooks connected here, but plays rook d8 instead. Seems a little counterintuitive. Now here, h6, preparing to play king g7, and now f4, and now rook takes, but this seems awkward for us. He can't take twice on g4, he gets mated. But what happens if he takes on d5? Well, this is what we're going to see. So knight takes d5, rook takes d5. Bishop c4. And now he defends. And now Mr. Slow turns into the Incredible Hulk with the beautiful move rook takes f7. Somebody didn't develop the pieces on the queen side. So he's up a bishop, but it doesn't matter because his king is completely exposed. Let that be a lesson to you, everybody. Your king position is the most important thing. And having a safe king is, above all, the most important factor. So he cannot take, right, and play king g7. Oof. That's brutal. He was expecting Mr. Slow to take, and I assume that white is winning after this. Check. And then like rook to the f-file. But maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe not. You know, even this is... Well, this is going to be a problem, though. I think that's a legit problem. But anyway, it's not clear white's winning after this. Not clear. Maybe. But your move is stronger. Your moveable. What about bishop e6? Mr. Slow, are you winning here, or is this a bluff? Somebody needs to explain to me what happens after bishop e6. Bishop e6, rook f8. Because it kind of feels like you might not be winning. It might be a draw. But maybe not. Because he literally has no way to defend f7. Wow. There's no way to defend f7. Yeah. He has no way to defend f7. So he sacked the bishop back, and you just took there. I was expecting you to take here. Now his king is really open. Rook g1 might allow maybe like a rook e8 or something. Otherwise, this, you know, if you had like a3 in or something, it would be really over. His only hope is the back rank now. I thought he would try to move up with the king. But I guess you just close in on him. Maybe it's not that easy, though. This is not that easy. Yeah, I don't know what he did here. After queen c7 check, I would definitely play king g6. Of course, his king is wide open and he's probably losing, but it's still worth playing out. But I'm a little surprised he did this. Does he have a back rank? Dude has to play. He has to play king e8. This is insane. You take on f5 and play queen g3. No, this is a blunder. The guy has to try king g6. And the computer said your best move is queen b7. You're not even up any material in this position. Okay, you will be. He'll play a rook move, and then, and then he takes... You take another pawn. But this is not an easy win. Not that easy, anyway. But this just loses. Because of rook e5. I mean, I figure you're winning anyway after, like, queen g3. As long as you don't trade queens, you're winning. But this wins everything. Okay. All right. You can stop there. Mr. Coffee said I can stop here. How's your queen versus rook and queen and 3 versus rook and 3 technique? Good. All right. The old days of Mr. Slow was really a dragon slayer. Jones versus Jones. Okay. Now I got 2 last games. Saeed's and Power of the Noob. Guys, tomorrow I got a busy day, but we will do a short blitz stream around 12 to 1:45, something like that, like 2 hours or less. Thanks to you guys for donating. Mr. Slow with $21, Sack Draw with 602. Please subscribe and give some gift subs. We need more victims here. Alright, this is Saeed's against I Cheat But Prove It. Like, not an account I want to face. You guys imagine how crazy, like, Astrobait would go if he got paired with someone called I Cheat But Prove It? B3, knight f6. Just sowing the seeds of doubt. Objectively, I don't think that bishop takes f6 is dangerous, but, it's a way of creating imbalance. I think that versus the Trompowsky, b3 weakens your position a little bit more on the dark squares. You typically have this Trompowsky structure, but the move b3 puts a pawn on light squares. You don't really want to trade your dark square bishop and have all your pawns on white squares. So, in my view, it's a kind of inferior Trompowsky for white. So apparently white has a plus score here, which is not entirely surprising. You know what else this is? I guess it's an English attack, English defense, English attack. It's also an English defense. Yeah, that's a way of looking at it. C4 is good because C4 makes sense. So when you play C4, well, that was elite chess. Yeah, the elite chess statistics were really skewed. That's funny. Look at elite chess. Okay, 48, 46 is basically the same. Yeah, 48, 46, 34, 29. Just a lot more decisive games, less draws. This is the right way to play it. Yeah, C4. Black has 2 approaches, like either with D5 or C5, but since he's black, I'm not sure. Is playing H4 a good practical idea? Right, well, I mean, I have experience playing your position with black in the English defense. So you play knight c3, you get your rook off the file, and then usually you know, well, it depends on what black does. Black has a couple different ways to set up. In the English defense, my opponents would often be committed to having played c5. If he's committed to having played c5, that's an extra tempo. It's a little different, and d5 tends to be a little bit weaker because he's not committed to playing c5. He has other more fluid structures. What they usually do in the Trompowsky is stuff like f5, d6, knight d7, knight f6. I think that's the recommended approach. To answer your question, I'm not sure that h4 is good, but it's a typical way to play. If you play h4 and you play the structure like h4, g3, e3, f2, black plays... Well, I mean, black only has one knight, but from what I remember, a long time ago I had this discussion with Eric Kishlik, who was in communication with the Azeri Grandmaster Safarli, and they were talking about he told me they were talking about the Trompowsky. And the Trompowsky, the plan for black was like d6, f5, knight d7, knight f6. And then Eric was talking about how when white tries to set up sort of h4, g3, e3, you go knight d7, knight f6, and you can stick the knight like on g4 or something like that. So, yeah, my guess would be that like you have to be careful about h4. Maybe it's not necessary that you always do that, you know. It might make it so you can never get a knight off of g4, for example. Yeah, I don't think you should be in a hurry to play h4. So let's see how this works out. Black plays bishop g7, knight c3, castles. And as I said, you know, normally they're going to go d6, f5, knight d7. I tried to play with black this setup a while back, where one of my only times playing it with black, I think I did something stupid like knight c6, knight e7. It didn't really make sense. This is like definitely the best to go here and here. Or maybe you could go, maybe you could put it on e5, g3, f5, bishop g2, now d6, and so, okay, e3. And then what white will do typically is this sort of thing like in the Trompowsky with knight e2, d4. And maybe you could do like b4, you know, move the rook. You'd like to play like b4, d4, b4, and even c5. So you set up all your pawns, you know, on dark squares. Something like that. Ultimately, see, knight d7 is the number one move. Knight here, and see, this guy is going right for the main line, and exactly what Kishlik was talking about. Castles, and now c6. But c6 is interesting because, see, c6 isn't always necessary. It controls d5, which is nice because it takes away the d5 square from your pieces, but it gives you that sort of break. You can break the queen side with b5. So I'm not sure when black should play c6, you know? Not sure about this move. Of course, you can't move your bishop without playing c6, but black doesn't need to move the bishop now. So I think this is okay. Someone here. There's a few players here who played rook e8. There's nothing wrong with rook e8. There's some people that played h5 unprovoked. Okay, Lance Henderson. Florence Henderson. Coincidence? This is a real guy. He played here. Spanish player. h5 is really, like, yeah. Rook b8 is interesting. That's worth considering. Rather than committing to c6, I kind of like that move. So I'm really not sure. Your opponent played c6 as well, now d4. Now the problem is that white has this very standard sort of plan of, like, you're going to basically, like, attack his pawn island on the queen side. So b4, c5, and if d5, then you go b5. Yeah, now you played h4. But I mean, okay, what's the point? Your play should be on the queen side. The only thing is, like, is this a serious threat? Is g5 a serious threat? But I have a question, right? Like, if g5 was a serious threat, why wouldn't he play it right away? Because you can play f4. This move is very risky. Is it about this preventing you from playing f4? Right, to secure f4 for your knight, obviously. Just a question, like, what would you do if black played g5? You don't have to do anything. Maybe it doesn't do anything. You weaken the square. I'm not sure that g5 is a good move and that it does anything, first of all. h4, yeah, h4 is reasonable, but at the same time, if he does like h6 and g5, it seems very familiar. We have a game like this? Now, he played h5, but I don't think that he should necessarily do that. I know h5 is a standard idea. It's not bad. Maybe black doesn't have to play h5. Alright, h5, rook c1. Now knight e4, and this is definitely, like, not right. So, according to the Safarli system, because this is all basically a Trompowsky, now you're supposed to go here. I guess you could try to trade his knight off anyway with the bishop. He can't prevent you from doing that. But I mean, your play is supposed to be b4 on the queen side. I also am not sure where you should put your rook. Maybe you should put it here to support b4, b5, or maybe you bring both rooks over to the queen side. But it's a tough one. I don't know. No, even if he goes knight g4 and you threaten to trade it, like, is that safe for you to take that? Because you're going to weaken your light squares. I'm not sure that you should take this guy, necessarily. After h5, rook c1, here. I mean, you could definitely take here. But after pawn takes, knight f4, bishop g4, queen d2, bishop, like, h6. I don't know. I still think that white is pretty solid here. This is last night, I'm not sure he should let you trade it off. Black probably better off keeping, being more flexible. I also wonder about h5 for black. He doesn't have to play h5. You're not sitting there with your king on e1 and your rook on h1 and you're threatening to play h5. You're castled already. Maybe, honestly, you should consider this. If here, we get this kind of thing where you go like knight h5. It's like a Dutch. I mean, maybe you're better. It's true. So, I guess this is a safe way for black to play. Alright. So you transpose to this Trongson game from 2014, which is really interesting because I played, Win-Wak Trongson a few times, and he was Mr. Trompowsky. So it's kind of funny that Vakidov is effectively playing the white side of a Trompowsky against him. Maybe he doesn't know that. Maybe, he doesn't play the Trompowsky anymore. And if you don't study his games from like 2005, then you might not even know that he was he got his GM title by playing Trompowsky continuously. So it's kind of a bad choice against this particular opponent. Well, he played b4, which I agree with. I don't know what you're doing with bishop f3. Okay, bishop f3, you're trying to stop him from playing g5. but I don't think he's threatening to play g5 anyway. But you need to understand your structural plan. What Vakhidov did is right. b4, a6. Now he plays a4. Black played bishop d7. And now white played c5. And Nguyen played d5. And now rook b1. This is very consistent what Vakhidov did. The question is, well, how did he ended up losing this game? Wow, black actually did g5. Is this good? It is good, apparently. Wow, g5 is number one move. So, Vakhidov should have played knight f4 first. And he's slightly better. g5 still would have been played. Takes, queen takes. So maybe your bishop f3 move is pretty good, actually. If you can inhibit g5, then you move over to the queen side. Right? Rook h1. You can go rook h1. You have to be careful of this, though. You don't want to fall for some kind of trick like knight takes f2. So correct here. Yeah. And the guy sacked. That's insane. Wow. Okay. Yeah, I mean, this is crazy. He sacked a piece. It's not enough. No, I think you played it fine. Apparently knight takes c3 was best, but I mean, objectively, he's losing. Oh yeah, something with bishop h3. f4, no? No, not enough. Queen g5. Interesting, he has almost enough compensation for this crazy sacrifice. Yeah, I wonder. This seems good. You could have prepared your attack a little bit more, maybe. As I said here, you gotta watch f2. But it's very hard for black to do anything. He's kind of stuck. If he doesn't have g5, he doesn't have any breaks, and only white can play for a win. I think you played well. This is correct. Now, I don't know about bishop takes c4. Well, you're up a piece at this point. That's fine. Fine. You're going to lose that pawn? And what happened now? He just runs out of threats. So he could have played queen takes f4. But black shouldn't have enough compensation. He's clearly worse. No, I think it was a good, well played game. Where did you leave that other game? Here. You didn't get the exact position. Yeah, there. Maybe, it's interesting, but instead of bishop f3, knight f4 is better. And like, you don't have to be afraid of this, because you can always take with the e-pawn. And you leave your bishop on g2. That was his only problem. He underestimated g5 as well. b4, a6, a4, bishop d7, and then c5. But like, Vakhidov was impatient. He was just impatient. Black has no real threats. So he could have played a move like you. Here, here. And only white can be a little bit better. So anyway, it was good. But your opponent almost got away with this crazy sacrifice. You had knight f4, apparently. That's better. Now you're winning. Oh man. Now maybe not. You gotta take. You're still winning. He only has a pawn for a piece now. Oof. This is tricky, but you have knight f5, knight h6 check. It looks like knight f5 is winning. So he comes down, you come down. He takes the pawn, and then knight h6 check. King g7, knight takes g4. What's up? Check. I mean, okay, he might be able to get a draw. Check here. But he could get a draw at most. It's probably a draw. There's a win there for black. Yeah, it was a blitz game. The guy had no time left, actually. Yeah, that's a nice move. Okay. You win. Good game. Yeah, I think it was correct the way you played it, more or less. You know, and that's, for me, the interesting thing is like the opening here. How black sets up. There seems to be a problem here, though. You know, maybe you need to play rook c1 first. Because these guys, like Ferenc and Duda and Christian Bauer, they know what they're doing. Dude, I mean, after this, it looks like black has bishop takes c3. Ulf Anderson. Oh, no. I don't think you should allow that. That's actually... Black still couldn't win, but still, you know, you should probably not allow bishop takes c3. Alright, last game, Power of Noob. Guys, thanks for tuning in. Saeed's. Alright, so this is Power of the Mysterious Noob. We're white against the 2500 now. Slav. Last time, I remember analyzing some kind of winnower counter gambit. E3. Now, possible to play CD5, Bishop D3. Now it's main line. So Nefedov might appreciate this. I don't know, like, you're playing a 2500 in a 10-minute game. But I feel like anyone who plays Bishop D3 in this position should be, like, banned from chess. I couldn't believe it, like, Ilinchich used to play this. He's an aggressive player, but I mean, this is so dry. I just, you know, don't know what to say. It's so lame for white that black has a plus score over the board. Because most people who play this are like trying to draw with white. It's a reverse London system. White can't be worse here. Ilinchich knows that. But why does black have a plus score? Because all the guys who played white like suck. But seriously, I think you have to play knight h4. I mean, this is the proper move. Trying to go after the bishop. I mean, what else is there? You know, there's nothing else. That's it. You have to play. I mean, there might be some case for bishop e2, but you're passive, you know. Well, John Bartholomew is raiding. First time chat from Raider Freya Chess. What do we got? A double raid. We got a double raid. Freya Chess raiding with a party of 10. Whoa. And then John Bartholomew raided. Boom, boom. You guys are together? These are separate raids. Is that like a coincidence? Alright. Freya Chess, thank you for raiding. John Bartholomew, thank you for raiding. Mr. Coffee, huge party. I don't think we have enough tables. Can you check if the wait staff, if we have enough staff to handle this? Freya Chess from Norway and John Bartholomew with a massive raid. So, just in time for this exciting opening, right? The symmetrical reverse London. And white plays, yeah, the amazing dynamic bishop d3, which I always just couldn't believe, like, anyone who's a strong player would play this. You know, with black it's one thing, but you're white and you're trading off like black's good bishop. This is really kind of counterintuitive. Thank you, peoples, for the raids. Huge raids. Mr. Coffee. Mr. Slowhand gifting subs. Alright. 5 gift subs for the new raiders. Thank you, Freya Chess and John B. Alright, we're going to analyze this game for all of you. This is a subscriber submitted game. But I don't like it. You know, I always, like, I couldn't, like, I had to look away when people, like Ilincic particularly, played this move repeatedly. You know, I'm like, how are you playing for a win with this move? Like, seriously, it's the most minimalist move ever for white. So white basically has to play knight h4, and then there's tons of theory. I know, like, John Bartholomew for sure. You know, he plays Slav stuff. So John probably knows this, at least to some degree. This is imbalancing, you know. There's been a lot of high-level games. Carlsen, Caruana, Nakamura, you can see. Black has options between bishop g6, bishop e4, bishop g4. All these different ways of playing. I'm not an expert on this, but I think you gotta go knight h4. Otherwise, you know, you have the option to do like some kind of exchange variation on the previous move, which is honestly pretty lame too. With ideas of like queen b3 and bishop d2 or whatever, I don't know. It looks lame to me. So I think this is our only way to go. Honestly. Knight f3 and knight h4. Okay, anyway, bishop d3. Black now plays bishop takes d3. This is main line. They could go to g6. Exactly reverse London. When you guys see the statistics of openings like here, you've got to understand the context of the statistics. So when you see this position, it's like, look, black is like winning 37% of the games and white is winning 14%, and it's like there's a fairly like reasonable sample size of 170 games, whatever. The reason why that is because good players don't play this line with white. It's like the Smith-Morra Gambit. Smith-Morra Gambit has terrible statistics, but objectively it's like equal. But if you look at the statistics, white is like really massively negative because only club players play the Smith-Morra Gambit. And other than Grandmaster Ilincic, who's a personal friend of mine, top players don't generally play bishop d3 unless they want to do like a quick draw with other top players or something like that, you know. Here there's a freak game or Rajaba beat Grishuk. I don't know, but I mean, obviously it doesn't happen too often. So bishop takes d3. Okay, this is standard. Take. I mean, here white is 2300, his opponent is 2500, and white is probably happy with the draw. Knight on bd7. Yeah, this is normal. Castles. And then interestingly, there's a way that black could play like this, which I've seen in other Slav lines. Also that knight h4 line, for example, this kind of thing happens, where black maybe is kind of fighting for control of e4, willing to give up this bishop in some cases, or is black just like bluffing, you know? Karpov, you know, Karpov 1995, that's pretty strong. Karpov Kramnik 1993, draw. But okay, I don't think that bishop b4 is like the classical way to play this position. So Bishop e7 is more solid. Now you played rook d1. Your only break is e4. You could also play, again, thanks to the Raiders. Welcome, everybody. Thanks, Mr. Snowhand, for gifting 5 gift subs to Chess Girl, Freya Chess. John Bartholomew got gifted last week. Lucid Chess Live. Skewerly, that's a good one. And Theodore121, whatever, 4455. If you break, normally e4 is like the main move here. You just go e4. It's a London in reverse. Position is like dead equal. Normally black takes, and then I don't know if he should exchange or castle, but the position is very, very close. Other way to play might be like b3, as you see here, some older games. b3, bishop b2, just kind of hang out, the position's equal. It's a Kali system with the bishops traded off, or London, or whatever you want. But okay, rook d1 is also about e4. I think we should play for e4. Almost every game a draw in this variation. Yeah, e4 takes. Now, here's an interesting thing. If your queen was on a different square, like e2, it might matter which way you take. Like, I had a game in the World Senior where my queen was on e2 instead of d3. And my opponent could take with the knight or the pawn. If the queen were on e2, it might matter, because if black takes with the pawn, you can play knight to g5. That's what I did in my World Senior game last year to get like some chances, So I think you kind of wonder why less people take like with a knight. I don't think that can be a mistake. All right, pawn takes, knight takes. It's kind of funny when you think about it. Look at this games. e4. One player played knight takes e4, and like 25 players played d takes e4. But after those 25 players played d takes e4, everyone played knight takes e4, and almost everyone played knight takes e4. So if you're gonna take with the knight anyway, then why not just play knight takes first? It's like more forcing. It's like human nature. In my game with my queen on e2, the guy took here, and when I played knight g5, again, picture my queen is on e2, virtually the same position. He was like in a state of like, shock. He's like, oh shit, I forgot you could do that, Now obviously here you don't have that option. Okay, knight takes e4, knight takes e4, queen takes e4, and then rook c8. Now this is a typical sort of London Slav move. I've never been a fan of rook c1, rook c8. It's about, first of all, breaking with c5, and secondly, like giving you counterplay if white plays d5 in some variations. But I think that here's another move that's kind of overrated. Knight f6, giving up the e5 square, is not always good. A lot of people automatically play this move. The problem is if you move your knight from d7 to f6, you give white access to the e5 square. So this knight's job is controlling e5 in a lot of cases. So I don't know. If I were black here, I think that rook e8 to me seems logical. It's a bit more, a bit more useful than rook c8. You free up f8 for defender pieces like knight f8, bishop f8. The rook obviously influences along the e file. There's possibilities of e5 later. So to me that seems better than rook c8. Now you played b3, black played b5, and this is kind of aggressive, by black. A Caro-Kann type of pawn move, but in my feeling, it's like, well, why do we put our rook on c8? So the rook is actually in this case just going to c8 in order to defend c6, so you can play b5. It feels a little weird, it's a little bit convoluted. Ultimately, it looks anti-positional to me. But I suppose in a blitz game, it's a concrete plan. He can create a target. if you take, you definitely are worse due to the pawn structure. But if you don't take, or if you push, he gets a solid square for his knight. I'm not sure that black is better here. Okay, here you can take. So you can't push in this position. Okay, bishop e2 though, I don't know about that. Ultimately, our bishop is blocked by our own pawn. So I think you need to think about where to put your bishop here. These squares have been weakened. On the dark squares have been weakened by the fact that you played b3. But that doesn't mean you should necessarily play bishop e2. So I think that white needs to consider other options like bishop f4. This is a useful move where it can control the b8 square. No rook b8 later. Does black have any real threats? Because I'm really not seeing it, you know. And ultimately my case for b5 would be like it's not so good, or against b5. b5 is not so good. You create weaknesses for black. I would say black should sit tight and not do anything. And another way to do nothing here effectively is a5. a5 is a very classic move. You play like a5, maybe a4, rook e8, and you just hang out. And we can also play maybe queen out to a5, something like that. But in my mind, I like this a little bit better. Let's say bishop f4, a4, rook a, c1, rook e8, or queen a5. Here you see Rishkovsky, a game from 2000. This is the standard setup. I mean, black has all the pawns on light squares, almost all pawns on light squares. What's the problem? You got to watch d5. That's it. And that's why rook e8 is often a good move. So anyway, rook c8 is a risky plan for black. I think maybe you shouldn't put the bishop on b2. I'm thinking bishop f4, or possibly even bishop e3. Just secure d4. This feels a little bit robotic. Take, knight f6. Okay, that's fine. Where's he going? He has no plan. And then queen e2. This is a fast game, so we're not seeing great play. Another drawback of bishop e2 is that it leaves this shelf square totally open. Black can use that square for the knight or for the queen to outpost a piece. And if we play g3, we weaken our light squares and put the pawns on the same color as our bishop. So another case of like probably we're better off with the bishop on the c1 h6 diagonal. This is very robotic. Like rook c1, I would much see if we had bishop on f4, we'd be controlling this diagonal now. So it looks like black is more active here. a3 is very bad. I'd probably rather play bishop c3. I think we're gonna see this though. He's like piling up here. You can play king f1 and you defend like it's a Tartikoff or Queen's Gambit. You're gonna guard your queen with your king. And possibly, you know, he can also put his queen on a4. But, you know, I think the bishop again is like kind of in the wrong place. It shouldn't be on this diagonal at all. It's blocked anyway, you know, so it should have been on f4. And then like, I don't know, e5 or something. a3 is bad. We put another pawn on dark squares. And now he left this open. It's no problem. He has queen a6. He should play queen a6. Here, here, here. And then rook c2, and you trade in. Okay, but this game is probably a draw. I mean, if anything, I feel like maybe white's a little overextended. I don't like the square, and this is a good reason not to play a3. What benefit do we derive by playing a3? Well, for black, getting access to b3. I think that's the biggest problem here. So rook c7, rook dd2, rook knight d7 here. Okay, black has, I don't know why he doesn't play rook b3. Black is clearly pressing for a win. This is not a very high quality game. It's basically just enhanced bullet chess. Both sides making quick moves. Another pawn on the wrong color. Why we do that? Okay, you wanted to prevent e5. The last move, I think here, this is forced. Bishop f6. But why here? He plays knight a5. The knight is extremely well placed on c4. Think about how well placed this knight is on c4. I guess he can hit it with rook c1. But I mean, for example, why not put it on d6? You would completely immobilize the guy's rook. This has to be better than putting the knight on the side on a5. Here you don't even immobilize his rook. You know, he can play rook c8. King h7. Now, maybe black had a chance there to play e5 and didn't do it. Maybe he was scared. You know, you have this. Alright, so here, but f4? I don't like f4. I don't know what white should do. You got to be careful about this king coming up to like f5, and you're just positionally worse. So he locks you down, yeah, and this is a catastrophe. This is an absolute positional catastrophe, starting with f4. Black is probably equal here. It's dead equal, but you can't be playing these weakening moves. After this, your g3 is suicidal. Your structure is very, very bad. It's lucky if you draw, because you have enough space to compensate, but your pawn structure is really bad. And look at that king on f5. Now it's time to bring the knight back. Somebody was a little too loose with their king. Yeah, see? Now you have two really nasty moves here. It's a great idea, but he didn't use enough time and think. He needs to go back now to g6. Oh no. What happens if, like, rook g2? This looks very dangerous for black. He's basically getting mated. So, not a good quality game. Too fast. Like bullet chess. Yeah, this is just ridiculous. This is just a ridiculous position. Anyway. Nothing to say, you know, about a random bullet game. Who does that remind me of, you know? Power of the New. I don't know about this position. I guess it's a draw. Yeah. Alright, guys. Anyway, thanks for the big raid from John Bartholomew and Foria Chess. Also, we got 5 gift subs, some donations. New subscribers. Guys, I do this every Thursday, so we analyze games from the subscribers. I prefer, like, more serious games, though. This is, like, this guy submitted a game that was basically like a really fast blitz game, or it became like one, so not so interesting there. But we did have some interesting games, interesting theoretical games. Nefedov, Mr. Slow, the Dragon. I'm going to be back for a couple hours tomorrow. If anybody wants to play, Friday, usually at around 12 Central European time. So I'll play some blitz chess or whatever with the people that are online. 5+5, if anybody's here. Saiz, thanks for submitting your game. That was interesting. And yeah, that's it, guys. I will be back tomorrow, so don't forget. And thank you guys for the raids. See you when I see you tomorrow. And Sunday Simul. Anybody who just joined with the Raiders, my biggest and bestest stream is on Sundays when I come on here in the evening, European time, around 6:30 Central European time on Sundays, and I do a Simul for 25 players. So I feel like that's my best. We have tournaments on Tuesday, analysis on Thursday, Blitz on Friday, Simuls on Sunday. So I'll see you tomorrow. and then again on Sunday. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for John B. and for your chess and everybody who donated. And I'm out of here. Have a great night. See you guys when I see you. Bye-bye. Where's the panda? Panda. Hey. Thanks for the raid. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.